Welcome back to Grow Plan Lives AI in the Garden series. So, this is part two in this series. Check out part one. And part one is kind of giving you more of a background. So, I think it's useful to check that one out, even if you have to go back and check it out after you see this one. So, today we're going to kind of focus more on getting in depth in our garden. We've provided the system with context on our garden. Just as a reminder, we're doing a small patio garden in Atlanta, Georgia, in Zone 8, and it's on an apartment. And so, if you've got something bigger, fantastic. So, you can use these tips even for a larger garden. You can, of course, do more in your larger space. But let's go ahead today and let's look at some things where we're going to get more in depth. So, in this one, I want a container planning calendar for our garden. We've already given it the context. And so I'm going to go ahead. You could do this from scratch, this prompt, if you wanted to. I'm going to go ahead and and give it again the information because, this would be from scratch. So I'm going to go ahead and say I'm in Atlanta, Georgia. Georgia. And our zip code here is 30354 in this example. And I'm going to ask it to give me a calendar. And of course, I'm going to also say include the crops that we've already discussed in the container planting calendar. Okay. So again, as we talked about, we always need to set this up properly to get a good output from the LLM ChatGPT. So we have told it that it's a garden planner. That's its role, its job. We're telling it the task was just to create the calendar and giving it the background, the context on, who we are, why we need this information, what we're trying to achieve. And then we tell it the format to give it to us. It's going to give us a table that's month by month. And then we're going to go ahead and hit enter here. This in this channel on Grow Plan Live, we're just kind of letting AI intersect with the focus of this channel, which is of course building generational wealth through the proper estate planning and also growing generational wellness with us growing our own food in small spaces in containers. Okay, we're going to do another prompt in a second, but stay tuned to the end so you'll find out how to get your prompts that you can pop right down into ChatGTP. So it's thought for 2 minutes, and so it's saying here's a month by month calendar for our area based on what we've already talked about, and it might ask some other questions. It actually went to the University of Georgia for planning charts, which is really great. So be more specific, giving us our last freeze dates and our first freeze dates, and it's giving us information based on our patio being hot and reflective. So it says kind of veer toward the early side on planting when you're going on these dates, but be ready to cover those plants during, cold snaps and things of that nature. Okay, so here's our guide. We can do onion seedlings in January. Okay, right now we're in February, so it's telling us to go ahead and do our peppers and eggplants now and tomatoes. You can also start basil and herbs for April planting, and you continue the onion sets. This is kind of going over to the side. If it's going to let me, yeah, here we go, down here at the bottom. So we'll just kind of scoot that just a little bit over so we can see more of that. Okay. And then, start composting if you do things of that nature. I don't know if you'll have a lot of space on a patio that size to compost, but if you can, great. And then it's telling us what to do in March, things of that nature, and starting different things at different times. It's giving us a full list. As you can see, despite popular belief, you've got things that you can do year round, and on your garden. You can do onions late, all the way late into the fall. I know personally I have pulled eggplant until Thanksgiving here. So tomatoes until Thanksgiving. You can do things pretty much most of the year. There's only maybe about 2 months out of the year where I'm pretty inactive on gardening. Otherwise, we're good to go. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to our second prompt. One of the things that people ask about is succession planting. So we've got a prompt for that to help us. And like I said, we're in our project. So we've already discussed from our first video some things with ChatGTP. So it's already got some background on us. You can do these from scratch and give it context, from scratch and just pop these in. But like I said, if you do them in order, you'll probably get an even better response. Okay, because it's knowing, in order what you're trying to do. So in this one, we've gave Chat GTP its role, and we're going to ask it to act as a succession planning coach for container gardeners. And by the way, if you're getting any value from this video, please hit like and subscribe so I can continue to make videos of this nature. It kind of lets YouTube know that this information is valuable and it's something that you're interested in. Also comment if there's something else you'd like me to cover as far as using AI in your garden. Comment below. We're giving the system its task: create a staggered planting schedule so I can harvest continuously, not all at once. So this builds on our previous prompt because we're telling it to give me something where not only do I harvest based on the schedule that you gave me, also want to keep harvest coming. Especially you want to do this if there's something you eat a lot of. If you eat a lot of tomatoes, if you eat a lot of squash, you want to do this to kind of have an idea of how frequently you can plant things to keep that always have something always in your garden, especially if you're trying to pull away from needing to rely on, external grocery stores. Okay, you're going to tell it I want to grow X, Y, and Z, and I have these containers. And I'm going to tell it, since we've already told it this, I'm going to say use the previous list of crops and the previous list of containers that I provided. And the output format is going to be a 10 to 12 week timeline with the exact plant on week X instructions and how to replant after harvest. I'm going to also give it a little bit more context and say I eat tomatoes and yellow squash most often of the crops we discussed. I'll say something like that because that's probably going to help inform it. And then I'm just going to let it give us this timeline here. Okay, great. So that search took about 3.5 minutes. And so here's our 12-week plan. Starts us around the middle of February and takes us on out from there. It reiterates the containers we told it that we had 5 20-gallon grow bags on our previous video. We said we had, it gave us a couple of like wild card pots. So it's telling us 10 to 15-gallon fabric pots. And then it's telling us that we've got 10 5-gallon buckets, which is what we told the system for our patio. And here it's telling us to go ahead and do these initial assignments. And then it's telling us, and it's giving us these numbers and letter combinations. That's from the previous video. It actually built us a sketch of a garden plan. So that's why it's giving us these. And you may be saying, well, what are these numbers and letters? That's in the previous video. And so here it's giving us the different breakdowns for the peppers. And then it's telling us what to do week by week, which is exactly what we wanted. What to plant, what to start, how to set everything up, having our infrastructure set up on our patio. And it's going to continue to give us this week by week. So this is fantastic. This is exactly what we needed to get everything set up. It tells us what we can direct sow. So what does better, direct sowing instead of seed starting? Things like cucumbers, probably going to do better direct sow. You don't, not saying that you can't start cucumbers, but a lot of times people just direct sow them as soon as the frost passes. And it's also telling us we can direct sow bush beans and our squash here. And so it's going to give us this window all the way through pretty much almost the middle of May here. And it's telling us to remind ourselves to do a strawberry planting window in September the 15th for stronger spring production in Georgia. So how to replant, it's giving us the information on how to do this and when to do that. If our bush beans start slowing down, usually within 3 to 5 weeks of picking, go ahead and pull it. add fresh compost, re-sow the beans about a week or a week and a half later. It gives us the breakdown for the cucumbers, and also, of course, because I told it that yellow squash was something we like to eat a lot, and tomatoes. It's giving us a breakdown on how to do this, what to pull, refresh your pot, and how to move forward. So, and again, the LLMs tend to do open ended conversations. So, again, it's saying, hey, I can give you a map and weekly reminder checklists to use so we can follow that like a recipe. I'm just going to, for fun, just going to go ahead and do this just to follow the conversation. And you can at home, of course, follow the conversation. I'm going to go ahead and let it do this. And in the meantime, while it's doing this, I want to invite you to join our free school. That's where you're going to get these prompts as I do this AI in the Garden series. And that's where you'll be able to pull all these prompts. Again, it's free. Link will be in the description. And then also, we've got our Ultimate Fertilizer Guide also linked in the description. It tells you what to fertilize at which stage of the plant's growing process, because plants like us need different food at different stages in the process. Here's our container map. It's going to be the 12-week, and it's once again, it's giving us this map that it drew previously. So you get to see this map that we had in the first video, and it's telling you, which one is which. And it actually is giving us more details, because before it just gave us like the letter and number. It's actually saying beans, and one of them was larger peppers and smaller peppers. So thank you again for joining us. I hope this works out well for you at home as you build out your own garden. If you have questions or run into any issues, just let me know down in the comments, and I'll try to get to everyone. Thanks again for joining me at Grow, Plan, Live, and I'll see you next time.